Okay, we are joined here by Len today for the second episode of the Not Your Shield interviews. Len, would you please like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi there. My name is Len. I'm a 25-year-old Latino who does graphic design, murals, painting, and IT stuff. And every once in a while, when I'm not busy doing that, I do comics and signs.
Right, great. And how did you first get involved in Gamergate? What was it that grabbed your attention and made you feel that you had to get involved in this?
Okay. At first, I was just merely a bystander. I was really just checking out the very initial early 4chan threads about this, where they talked about Quinn, the Five Guys, and how the journo industry appeared to be covering this whole thing up and making a mess out of it. And it was just, from a distance, it was like, oh, it's just Kotaku. Who gives a shit about them? And, didn't really care because I didn't really like Kotaku anyway. But this all just didn't feel real to me up until the point where 4chan began to censor the Gamergate threads. Not just on V, but everywhere else. And it just kind of blew up from there. And then shortly after that, I believe the Gamers Are Dead articles came out, and it was just everything is history after that.
I get the sense from you that what got you involved and what made you feel like this was a really important issue was the censorship. Is that correct?
The censorship, yeah, but a big part of it was just wanting the truth, man. Like I'm Mexican American. I have family living in Mexico, and over there, journalists are getting killed for wanting to tell the truth, and these guys just seem to like just love collusion. That's what they live off of, and Jesus Christ. What happened to ethics? That's, but yeah, the censorship and the lies, all that stuff. Just, oh, I hate that crap. I just hate them, hate bullies and all that stuff. So that really just I guess just riled me up and got me involved.
Now, what you said about bullies there, would you care to explain what you mean by bullies? Do you think that the journalists implicated in the corruption that we've seen have been misusing their power to attack people?
Just one name I could give you, Ben Kuchera. I mean, that guy, as far as bullies go, man, that guy's a really big one on the list. Yeah. Oh, geez, where do we even start on that guy? But yeah, just the whole fact, like the thing with Alistair Pinsoft, where I feel like he got pretty much bullied out of the industry, blacklisted and all that stuff, and the stuff that recently came out by Usher with Patrick Klepek, the whole blacklisting that he was involved in. I mean, what do you want to call that? What's been going on in Gamergate in general, where as a minority, if you don't agree with their narrative, you basically get bullied until you fall in line. Like the guy that started Not Your Shield, I mean, he got fired for it, for sticking up for Gamergate. I mean, what do you call people like that? But besides bullies,
Now, when the Gamers Are Dead article first hit, there were, I believe, 10 to 12 articles over the course of 2 days, August 28th to August 29th, that really, really went out on a hard attack against the gamer identity. Is that something that you felt hit home for you? Have you considered yourself a gamer previously to Gamergate? Like, how far back does your gamer experience go, would you say?
okay. My first introduction to video games were when I was in first grade. I got the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong bundle, Donkey Kong Country, and ever since that very first day, I've just fallen in love with games. And the older I grew up, the more games I started playing, and eventually I got into MMOs, where I met people from all over the world and all kinds of backgrounds, and I established a lot of friendships that way. And for them to, gamers are dead, gamers are all these misogynistic, all this other stuff that they spouted. I'm like, wait a second, I've known gamers my entire life. These are like the most accepting people ever. Like, like all that stuff has never really mattered. I've been in guilds with like men, women, the LGBT community has been there. And that like none of that stuff mattered. All that mattered was basically your skill. All that's pretty much if you were good, you were accepted, and even if you weren't good, you got accepted as long as you were just a friendly person. I mean, if they want to say that we're over, no, I got news for them.
Now, one very common charge that's used against supporters of Gamergate is that they are essentially just a backlash against a growing diversity, not just in the demographics that play video games, but also growing diversity in the characters and the identities present in video games. What's your take on that? Would you say that diversity in video games is a good or a bad thing, or are you more focused on matters such as gameplay?
Okay, well, they want to say that diversity is a relatively new thing, right? Well, just until recently, I got a couple of games on the Steam sale. I got XCOM: Enemy Unknown, and I got Valkyria Chronicles, both which came out, quite a few years ago, actually. And in XCOM and Enemy Unknown, you have male and female characters from all over the world with all kinds of ethnicities. And the women aren't dressed in skimpy outfits. They're dressed like professional soldiers with body armors, they're the whole shebang. And they're all really cool characters. And they want to say that, oh, we want diversity. I mean, if you look far enough, diversity has always been there. In Valkyria Chronicles, you have men and women fighting alongside each other. You have LGBT characters in there as well, gay, bi, lesbian. You have characters that are, not white as well. I mean, the fighting game community, fighting games, how many characters from all over the world are there? Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the King of Fighters, just as far as back. I mean, they've always been there. But I agree. It could be better. It could be better. And there's, nothing stopping people from making characters, that are diverse. The only thing we ask really is if you want to make a character from a different cultural background or a different sexual orientation, is that you write them well. Don't put them there just to fill some quota. That's not like if I saw a Latino character that's just there to be Latino and just has no depth besides that would actually make me madder, I think. I'd be like, okay, it'd get me interested in games. Oh, there's a Latino character, and then I find out that he's kind of really badly written. I think that would just make me more upset. So if I'm totally pro diversity, if it enriches a story, and if it's not there to fill a quota, does that make sense?
That makes sense, yes. Now, one very common sentiment that I keep seeing among people that are opposed to Gamergate, who are critics of Gamergate, is that people who post under the notyourshield hashtag in reality are really only acting as a shield for the Gamergate movement. What would you say to them?
We're not anybody's shield. We're our own people, and we're allowed to have opinions. I actually may not agree with everybody, every single person in Gamergate, but hey, I have my own opinions, and Gamergate aren't the one who's saying, no, well, our minority's this, our minority's that, they're the ones who want to talk for us. They're the ones who want to speak for us, and when you express an opinion that doesn't quite fit into their narrative, then they lash out at you. They call you a sock puppet, or even in worst case scenarios, they try to just straight up harass you. I can't agree with that, and it seems like they've been using us for Shield for a really long time, and I'm really glad that something like Not Your Shield came out. I think it was really needed. What makes me really upset to see is that these people, that claim to fight for social justice, don't really care about social justice. And to me, that's the most disheartening thing. Up until the point they like us, up until the point where we don't agree with them, then we're a sock puppet. Then we're just a tool being used by Gamergate. No, we're people. We have opinions just like you. You know.
You expressed earlier that censorship is a very important issue to you. What's your take on the block bot, on the block list that was endorsed by the IGDA? Do you think that blocking people is an appropriate way to deal with what's often touted as harassment, or do you think rather it is a tool to silence dissent?
I'm on that block bot list, and I've never so much as harassed or insinuated any kind of negative thing towards anybody on, what you would call the anti side or whatever. And like even Colonel Sanders is on that block bot list somehow. I mean that just shows you how flawed that is. I believe a Puerto Rican member of their little organization was even on that block bot list, and the guy, you know, he never done anything bad in his life. And I think the creator of that block bot list was, she was, oh well, if that guy doesn't want to be on it, then he shouldn't have been following so and so and so. Like it's just extremely flawed. And yeah, I believe it's a tool to silence people. That's clearly what it is. Yeah, I agree. There's, trolls playing both sides that are really just using this for a platform to harass other people. But having a different opinion than someone else isn't harassment. At least I think so, yeah. It's not harassment. I mean, it really isn't.
Am I to understand that you have not appealed your block?
I don't intend to appeal my block. Never. If they want to keep me from them, that's fine. I've never hurt them, never even talked to them really. I'll stand behind my compatriots in Gamergate, I guess. I like them a lot more.
All right, understood. Now, even though you are on the blockbot, would you be willing to speak to someone from Anti Gamergate if you were able to sit down with them and have a nice civil discussion
Oh
regarding the
yeah.
merits or the flaws of Gamergate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone actually wanted to talk, which up until this point, I don't think any of them have, but if, any of them wanted to talk to me, I mean, I think we could have a very civil conversation. At least the ones that like video games, I think at least we could have that common ground.
You mentioned earlier that you frequented 4chan. I suppose now that you have moved on to 8chan, now that 4chan has banned Gamergate discussion, but both 4chan and 8chan have been associated with the distribution of child pornography. Now, whether those claims are true or not, I won't be the judge of. But do you think it is a matter that Gamergate, as a consumer revolt, as a movement, as a community, has to address these associations with sexualized content of minors? Is that something that people need to speak out about? Or is it a matter that is separate from Gamergate and again, it's an attempt to smear people who are trying to fight journalistic corruption but are simply banned from everywhere else. So this is the only place that will have them.
Well, let me ask you something. If someone from your apartment complex committed a crime, is it your responsibility to say, oh, well, not everybody, we're not all involved, just because we live in the same apartment complex doesn't you mean we're all the same entity or person. Every board seems to have its own culture, and every, board has its own problems and people. I don't think Gamergate, unless one of them specifically, which to my knowledge so far isn't true, unless one of them is involved with it, I don't think they have anything to apologize for. I mean, why would they? I mean, you wouldn't apologize if, like I said, you wouldn't apologize for someone in your, apartment complex committing a crime. Why would you? You didn't do anything, and you should never apologize for something that you didn't do. That's just wrong.
Understood. Now, the next question comes from Emma, the one I interviewed previously. And her question is this: what has been your favorite piece of Gamergate inspired art to have come out of this controversy?
I actually have it as my phone desktop. It's a Days of Future Past X-Men cover with Punished V. Vivian James and the wanted posters of e-celebs or whatever with this whole abandoned e-celeb, etc., etc., etc. That picture right there. I'm a comic book guy, so that picture was like, wow, this is really well drawn, and it pumped me up, man. That must have sent like 10 emails that day. Like I think the part that I really like is the only leader you can count on is yourself, or something relating to that, which is basically true. People will come and go, but ultimately the only person you can count on is yourself. You're the real leader, Everybody who's out there sending emails, making art, making videos, you're the leader, not an e-celeb with thousands of followers, etc. It's you, the little guy.
If we take that sentiment then and say that you're the leader of all of Gamergate, just for a minute, what would your message to Gamergate be if you could have their attention for a sec?
Always, always fight for the truth. Never compromise. Like Rose Shark said, never compromise for anything. Always look for the truth. Always strive for it. Never give that up. Never buy into their narrative if you know that, what you have is the honest to God truth. And, more and more, that's what's going to be coming out. Their narrative of misogynist, sexist, all this stuff is going to collapse on them one day. And all that's going to be left is the truth. And they're going to have to face this. Like vampires being dragged into the light, they're going to have to face the truth. Never give that up.
There have been several new gaming news outlets that either sprung up as a result of Gamergate or have received increased attention and have built their readership to much bigger degrees than what they had previous to this controversy. Is there any one of these websites that you frequent now?
Oh yeah, I really started to like Niche Gamer a lot. Um, they pretty much review the games all into, JRPGs, little titles like that, and I really like their staff. They're really kind, nice people. I went into, one of their comment sections, and the guy was thanking, his new followers for sticking with them, and I was like, no man, thank you for, being truthful and, never having any bias and just for telling us the truth about a game if it's good or bad and just keeping us up to date on news. But I also go to Tech Raptor. They seem like they've got a really solid head on their shoulders, really good staff, really dedicated. And I'm really looking forward to Oliver Campbell's new thing that he's going to do. I believe he has a project in the works where he's going to mix Let's Plays with reviews, and that seems really interesting. And I can't forget Games Noosh or Nosh. I'm not really sure how to pronounce them. I really
Games Nosh,
like
I
them
believe,
too.
yeah.
Right, yes, I really like them as well. And I'm not sure which is the one that Gemma's in, but I really like them too. I followed them on Twitter yesterday actually, and I was talking about the guy with the guy, one of the people there about Game of Thrones, and I really liked it. The guy seems to be pretty cool, or girl, I'm not sure. Couldn't really tell. No Twitter avatar.
Now, all in all, even if Gamergate were to collapse today and no further operations were planned, nothing more came of it, no more corruption was revealed, would you say that Gamergate has achieved something?
Yes, and I don't think Gamergate is gonna die. I think I've met plenty of anons, plenty of people on Twitter who I'll say, even if there's one person left out there to fight for ethics, for truth and journalism, for unbiased news, I'll be here. And I'm like, hey, I'll be your number two, so you never have to go anywhere. Um, what I want to see eventually happen, I don't think we're gonna die out. What will probably happen is we'll become our own community. We'll make a watchdog group, and our own little things are gonna pop up. I don't think we'll ever die. We might die the name might die, but I think the people always wanting unbiased, ethical news, you know, we'll always be here. Our community will always be here, I think.
All right. Thank you for coming on, and I do believe that's a wrap.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.